ever look at a camouflage pattern and really think about the story behind it? Because it's so much more than just a random mix of greens and browns. It's a science, it's an art, and it's a language of pure survival. So let's peel back the layers and get into the hidden world of camouflage and the brilliant designs made specifically for disappearing.
Right? It's the ultimate question. If you're a soldier on a battlefield or even a hunter out in the woods, the answer to that question is, well, it's everything. But how do you actually pull it off? The answer, it turns out, is way more complex than you'd think.
And that really brings us to the two great philosophies of camouflage. On one side, you have these patterns that try to perfectly mimic the organic, messy shapes of the natural world. But on the other, you get these stark, almost digital-looking geometric patterns that do something completely different. It's this fascinating design tension that we're going to explore. So let's start with the fundamental goal here, because it's not as simple as just, painting yourself green to match the trees. The real challenge is way more sophisticated than that. See, here's the crucial point. Our brains are literally hardwired to recognize other people, that super distinct shape of a head on top of shoulders. So the real goal of any good camouflage is to completely destroy that silhouette, to turn a person into just a meaningless jumble of shapes that your brain doesn't even register. All right, let's jump into our first design school. This is the one that makes the most sense right off the bat. If you want to hide in nature, you should probably look like nature. And you really can't find a better example than classic desert camouflage. It was born out of pure necessity. Its entire purpose is to mimic the desert's own color palette. You can see those muted earth tones, the sun-bleached tans. It's a direct answer to the question, how do you survive in a place with absolutely nowhere to hide? And you can actually watch the thinking evolve right here on this timeline. It kicks off with the famous chocolate chip pattern from the Gulf War, which literally tried to look like rocks scattered on sand. But then, as warfare changed, the designs got more abstract. They moved to pixelated patterns like Desert Marpat, and finally to something like multicam, which is engineered to work across a whole bunch of different arid environments. Okay, but what happens when you leave the wide open spaces of the desert and walk into the chaotic, cluttered world of the jungle? Suddenly the light is different, the shapes are different, and the rules of being invisible change completely. And this is where Tiger Stripe comes in. Man, this pattern is an absolute legend. It was developed for the humid jungles of Southeast Asia, and its design logic is totally different. It uses these big, bold, aggressive slashes to imitate the sharp shadows you'd see from bamboo and palm leaves. It's not just about blending in, it's about breaking the human form into pieces. And this quote just nails the psychology of the pattern, doesn't it? Unlike desert camo, which is kind of passive, Tiger Stripe feels active, almost aggressive. It carries this mystique of stealth and ferocity. It's a pattern for the hunter, not just for the one who's hiding. Okay, so this leads us to the other big idea. What if, instead of just mimicking nature, you used science to actively confuse and deceive the human eye? Here's the core difference. Think of it this way. Mimicry, like we saw with the desert camo, is all about replication. But disruption, that's about destruction. It uses sharp contrasts and weird, irregular shapes to basically fracture the human outline, making it work against all kinds of backdrops because it doesn't depend on matching any single one. A modern masterclass in this is Pencott's green zone pattern. It's this fantastic hybrid design. From far away, the big fractal shapes just shatter your silhouette. But then, if you get up close, a completely different pattern emerges, this super fine microtexture that looks just like leaves and grass. It's built to work at every single distance. And if you want a pure, unapologetic example of disruption, you gotta look at Sweden's M90 pattern. I mean, this thing isn't trying to look like leaves or rocks at all. It's using these sharp, interlocking geometric shapes to create this jarring, fractured look. The only goal is to confuse your eye by breaking the wearer's shape into something totally unrecognizable. Now, for decades, all of this design genius was aimed at fooling one thing: us, the human eye. But then, technology changed the game, and camouflage had to adapt to a brand new kind of enemy. And this is Desert Night Camouflage, or DNC. It's one of the strangest, most fascinating patterns ever created. I mean, you look at it and think, that would be terrible for hiding. And you'd be right. In the daylight it is. But it was never meant for daylight. It was engineered for one single purpose: to break up the human form as seen through old-school, Cold War-era night vision. So, the crucial point here is this was one of the first mainstream patterns designed not to fool an eye, but to fool a machine. That weird grid-like design actually confused the early optics, making the wearer's heat signature a lot harder to lock onto. It's just a brilliant technological pivot in the art of concealment. But the story doesn't just stop there, on the battlefield. These patterns, which were designed for total invisibility, have ironically become some of the most visible and iconic designs in our culture. It's honestly incredible to see the journey these patterns have taken. Desert camo went from being the armor of invisibility to a staple in fashion and streetwear. Tiger stripe, born in the jungles of Vietnam, became the symbol of rebellion in skate and punk culture. The British DPM pattern now feels like this icon of rugged heritage, while the geometric M90 looks so futuristic it's ended up in digital art and video game skins. This quote, which was first used to describe Sweden's M90, really captures the whole phenomenon. These purely functional designs have been completely reinterpreted as pure aesthetics, valued now for their boldness and their history.
And that's really the ultimate paradox, isn't it? A pattern that started as a soldier's shield, an attempt to literally erase yourself from view, has transformed into this powerful global symbol that people wear to stand out and make a statement. So when someone wears camouflage today, they're often tapping into these much deeper meanings. The patterns carry these ideas of strength, of being adaptable enough to survive in harsh conditions, a sense of resilience, and of course, a unique and undeniable style. In the end, whether it's mimicking nature or deceiving a machine, every single one of these patterns tells a story of innovation and adaptation. It's a reminder that sometimes the most powerful way to be seen is to first master the art of not being seen at all.